You are listening to the Writer's Block. I am horror author James Hershey Jr. It's time for a truth bomb.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Writer's Block. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and on tonight's episode, we are going to do solving healthcare. Okay, healthcare is one of those things that's become a huge problem in America, and it's been like that for most of my lifetime, really. I'm 40 years old now, or 42, 40, I don't know what I am. I was born in 74, in November of 74, so y'all can do the math. I'm like 42, I think. And it's been a problem almost my entire life. Back in the old days, it wasn't as bad, but the costs have just got way out of control, and it's all screwed up. And every election, we go back and forth with different ideas of how to solve it, and we argue back and forth, and nothing ever really gets accomplished. And when they do something, they screw it all up as usual. So, on this episode, my plan is to lay out a detailed and a comprehensive plan to actually solve the problem of healthcare in America. One thing it will not be is political, okay? I think that there are some things in this country and in this world that should not be political, and healthcare is one of them. I also think that there's some things in this world that should not be for profit, you know what I mean? Like, only concerned about the profit margins, and that's also healthcare, in my opinion. Because healthcare is one of those issues where people, their lives are really on the line, you know? They have to decide whether, in some cases, they're going to eat or buy that prescription they need, or they're going to pay their rent, or be able to get, some procedure that they desperately need. So, I mean, it shouldn't be like that, especially not in America. You know what I mean? Where we can solve these things, we can fix them. America used to be the country that thought outside the box, and that was innovative and came up with fascinating and amazing ways to solve problems. I mean, we're the country that came up with the automobile. We're the country that first learned how to fly. You know what I mean? We put the first man on the moon. I mean, we are the country that can do anything if we put our mind to it. And this is absolutely no different. I've been doing a lot of research on this subject, and I've been watching what the politicians and all the talking heads have been saying about it for years. And I have to say, honestly, I'm rather disappointed, because if this monstrosity that we have now of Obamacare, if this is the best we can do as a country, then we have definitely went the way of Rome in its later years, my friends. We are done. I mean, because this is pathetic. We can do so much better. And like I said in the beginning, this is not going to be a political show. My solution is not a political based solution. We're not going to be talking about, the left or the right and their views on this, or whether this should be this or this should be that. The whole purpose of this is to solve the damn problem once and for all. Get it done with. And I believe that what I've come up with will solve the problem. There's a lot of stuff that'll need to be worked out, because the way this thing works is, like, you have the heading healthcare in America. Okay, that's the problem. So let's put that at the top in a box. And then branching off from that, if you look at the problem of healthcare in America, it's really broken down into three major categories of problems. You have the problem of accessibility, you have the problem of affordability, and then you have the problem of quality of care. Okay, so those are the three main categories that branch off from that first initial box. And then from each one of those three boxes, you'll have multiple other categories that branch off from that are problems that are contained in there, such as, like, with affordability, the problems you have there is the high cost of prescriptions, tons of malpractice lawsuits which forced doctors to have to pay a fortune for malpractice insurance to protect them from frivolous lawsuits that have no real merit. So that drives up the cost of care, and multiple other things. So what it's going to end up looking like is like a family tree, basically, like a Christmas tree. It's going to start from one and it's going to branch way out. So each one of those little problems are going to have to be solved as we go along. But I believe that we can solve enough of them here tonight to where we can make it doable. You know what I mean? The little things can be figured out as we go. But the major issues actually have some pretty decent solutions. And it's kind of funny because we spend a fortune every year on healthcare already as a country. Our government shells out tons of cash to pay for Medicaid, to pay for Medicare, to pay for TRICARE for the military members, to pay for the VA for the vets, and and then of course all members of government have their own healthcare. Congress and the president has their own healthcare plans. So there's a hell of a lot of money being spent already by our government on healthcare, and the results are actually pretty terrible. Now, what if I told you that we could do it better? We could have better care, we could have more affordable care, and everybody could be covered. And we would spend less than what we're already spending now as a country. So we could cover everybody in the country, so every man, woman, and child would have health care. And we would not have to spend even as much as we're spending now. And the end user, the consumer, would not have to spend anything. It would be free to them. So in other words, if you got sick and you needed to go to the doctor, it doesn't matter whether you're the CEO of a company or you're a janitor that cleans toilets for a living. You're covered. You can go to the doctor. You can get taken care of. You don't have to get sick and die. I mean, you might still get sick and die because that's life, but at least you'll have medical care to help you. And that's doable, man. I mean, we can do that. This whole pessimism and this whole can't-do spirit that has overcome America within the last 10 years or whatever, it's depressing, man, and it's shocking to me because we were always a nation that could do anything, and we're not. So let's start with accessibility. There are some things that we can do absolutely immediately, like tomorrow, that would go a great deal towards helping accessibility to where people could get into the doctor, because there's some areas of the country where you make an appointment and you can't even get in for 6 months. Okay? And that's a problem. Now, one of the things we can do is there's a lot of prescriptions that you have to go and have a doctor's visit and get scheduled and take up a block of time where that doctor's not seeing anybody else in order to get the prescription. And there's no reason why some of the things that you need prescriptions for, you should have to have a prescription for. You know what I mean? So one of the things we could do is things like inhalers for asthma, like ibuprofen 800. You have to have a prescription for ibuprofen 800. That's exactly the same as just taking 4 ibuprofens that you can buy at Walmart, the 200 milligrams. That's what the pills are you buy at Walmart, the little 200 milligram ibuprofen pills. That's the exact same as taking an ibuprofen 800 is to take 4 of those. There's no reason why you have to have a prescription for that. You shouldn't have to make a doctor's appointment and go in to get a prescription. It's silly. That could be sold over the counter. Like I said, the inhalers, they could be sold over the counter. There's all kinds of drugs like that there's really no good reason why you should have to have a prescription. Antibiotics is another one I think would be really good to make to where you didn't need a prescription. Where if you needed an antibiotic, you could simply go down to Walmart or Rite Aid or wherever you fill your prescriptions at, and you could pick up penicillin or amoxicillin or any of the others that you need. there's really no reason to not do that. Okay, now what that accomplishes is, I mean, people know their own bodies. I mean, my wife gets bronchitis every single year, okay, like clockwork. She knows when it's coming, she knows when she's going to get it, and sure enough, she gets sick and she gets bronchitis, and she makes the doctor's appointment. She goes to the doctor. He does the thing. He tells her you have bronchitis. He writes her the prescription for the antibiotic. She goes to the pharmacy, fills the antibiotic, and then she's better. And it happens every year. Okay, there's no reason why she should have to schedule that appointment. All she should have to do is go down to her pharmacy and tell the pharmacist, hey, I want some, penicillin, or I want some amoxicillin, or whatever the antibiotic you need is, and they should be able to get it for them, and they pay the money and they go about their day. No reason. Now, one of the reasons they do that is because the pharmaceutical companies that make the drugs, they want it to be kept as prescription only, so they could be the only manufacturer, so that they can make back their R&D money. Okay, that can be fixed. Okay, because that also ties in with affordability, because prescription costs are enormous, and that's a huge part of your healthcare cost, is paying for your prescriptions. Now, each one of those pills you're taking costs a penny or less to make. Okay, but the reason why they charge so much is because they've spent billions of dollars in research and development to come up with that drug, and then they've put it on the market, and they want to make their money back. And see, the government gives them a set amount of time that they're allowed to be the only person that sells that drug. And then after that set amount of time passes, then you will start to see generics come onto the market, which is the same formula, just without the name and a lot less money. You know what I mean? So if you take that issue and you deal with that on both sides, you can make it so it's more affordable and more accessible. Okay, you can make it like for antibiotics and stuff that they don't need prescriptions. Okay, and for some of the newer drugs that they come up with, instead of charging, there's prescriptions out there, they cost hundreds of dollars for the prescription. They just came up with a way to treat Hep C, and it's like $60,000 or $70,000 a dose. You know what I mean? It's insane how much they're charging for this. Okay, you can fix that. What you do is you pass a law. You tell the drug companies you are not allowed to charge more than X amount per prescription. Okay, whether it's $1, $5, $10, whatever the math works out to be. You're not allowed to charge more than this per prescription. Now, you're worried about your R&D money, recouping that. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a longer period of time to where you can be the sole provider of this medication, so that you will still make up your R&D money. It'll just take a longer time to make it up instead of making it up in a very short time. The drug companies will still research, they will still come up with new drugs, because they will make their money back. It'll just take longer to make their money back than it did before, but the end result is a cheaper product. And that's going to be important, because in my system, the government is going to be running the healthcare system, okay? But it's not going to be the incompetent dumbasses in Congress that are running it. The way I'm going to set it up is the same way the military is set up, okay? Is you have people that actually know what the hell they're doing in healthcare running the healthcare system. The same way you have generals and stuff running the military and admirals. That is the way to go. You have to get experts to run it. You can't get politicians to run these things, because they will screw it up every single time. Okay, so another problem with accessibility is the amount of doctors. Okay, the reason that's a problem is because if you cover everybody in the country, then you're going to have a lot of people that are going to go to the doctor that did not go to the doctor before. So you're going to have a much larger pool of people that are going to need doctors. Okay, now we've already started chipping away at that problem, by making it so you can get a lot of these prescriptions over the counter now, instead of having to have the prescription for it, such as the inhalers, antibiotics, things like that, like I was talking about. And there's many, many more. Unless there's really a potential for abuse of the drug, if people are taking it to get high and you need to regulate it because of that, or it's something that if you don't need it and you take it, it will seriously damage you, then I can understand needing a prescription for that. But there's a lot of medicines that don't fall into that category, that you can easily make over the counter, and that will help that a whole bunch. Okay? Now, another thing you do, it will control cost and it will help accessibility, is you pass a law so that anybody that files a malpractice suit, which is deemed to be frivolous, okay, by the court or by the jury, either one, if they say this is a frivolous lawsuit, there's no basis here for a lawsuit, then the person that filed that lawsuit has to pay the court cost of the doctor that they're suing, and they have to pay a fine. The more times they do it, file these frivolous lawsuits, the higher the penalty will be for them in the fine. Okay, that will get rid of a lot of these frivolous lawsuits that people are just suing just to get the settlements. Because that's what you have happening a lot of times, is a lot of these people will have a lawsuit against a doctor or a hospital, and they know that it's a dumb lawsuit that has no merit. The doctor knows it's a dumb lawsuit that has no merit, but it's actually cheaper for the doctor just to offer them a settlement of $5 or $10 to get them to shut up and go away than it would be to actually fight it in court and prove that it's frivolous. So they end up settling just because it costs less for them, and so it just encourages that action. Okay, so if you pass that law, then you get rid of a lot of the frivolous lawsuits out there. That lowers the cost of your doctor visits because the doctor doesn't have to shell out so much money for malpractice insurance anymore, so that helps that. Okay, another thing is you need a lot more doctors if you're going to have a lot more people coming into the doctor. There's several things that keep people from becoming doctors. Okay, one is they don't want to get sued all the time. That's one thing. Two, and probably the biggest and most important thing that keeps more people from becoming doctors, is the fact that it costs so much money. I mean, you're going to go in debt a couple $100,000 before you ever even open your doors and begin to recoup any of that money. So that's a problem, and that causes the bills to be a lot higher because they have to make back all that money. Okay, now what I suggest for this, I actually got this idea from my years in the military. Okay, in the military they have what's called TRICARE, and every base has a hospital. They have surgeons, they have doctors, they have nurses, they have orderlies, they have everything a regular hospital has, and they do a fantastic job of providing care. If you are in the military or you are a dependent, one of the military members' kids or spouse, and you get sick or you get injured, or whatever reason you have that you have to go to the hospital, that people go to the hospital for, you go and you get it taken care of. You get your prescriptions, you get your stitches, you get your surgeries, you get whatever you need, and you go home. And you don't have to pay anything. I mean, you're not shelling out a ton of cash. It's taken care of by the government. It's free. So you go and you get it taken care of and you come back home. Okay? That system works incredibly well. And the reason it works incredibly well is because all of the medical personnel are government employees. So they have a cap on their pay. They have a set amount they're allowed to make. Okay? So they can't charge you a shit ton of money to perform whatever service it is that you've went in there to get. Okay? So to them, they come to work, whether they see patients or they don't see patients, they get paid the same amount. That's the way to go with this. Now, you can do that, and the other side of that, the thing that makes that worth doing is it will drastically reduce the cost of care, which will help overall to cover everybody for less money. But the benefit you can give to the doctors is you can, since they will be government employees, you are responsible for training them. Okay, the government is. So the government can make a deal with the college systems, okay, that have the medical schools that these people go to, and they can say, we are paying for everybody's medical training that wants to go to med school. Okay, we are picking up the tab for that as the federal government. Now, the colleges charge way too much damn money. Okay, that can be fixed, because if you come at them as the government and you say, listen, we are going to be paying for everybody's med school, but we are only willing to pay this amount per student. Okay, and you'll have to have different tiers, because you're going to pay a lot less for a nurse than you are a brain surgeon. Okay, so you have different prices for different fields in the medical field, different specialties, and you say, this is how much I'll pay for a nurse, this is how much I'll pay to train a doctor, this is how much I'll pay for a general surgeon, for an orthopedic surgeon, etc., etc., etc. Okay, you set that up. Now the colleges will grumble at first, but if you think about it, they're going to get a lot more business, because there's a lot more people that would go to med school if they knew they didn't have to pay for it. You know, smart people that could go to med school. We're not talking about letting in a bunch of dummies that can't cut it, because they're still going to have to make the grade. They're still going to have to pass a test. They're still going to have to do everything they'd have to do in med school. It's just the government will be picking up the tab. So you're going to have a lot of smart people that could be doctors, but they don't become doctors because they can't afford med school, or they don't want to go that far into debt to do it. Okay, and the colleges will go along with that plan, because one, they're going to get a lot more people attending. Okay, so they're guaranteed money, so they're going to make more by charging less, because there'll be more customers. Does that make sense? So that's one reason they'll go along with it. The second reason is they have no other option, because if the government says, I'm picking up the tab for all the medical training, this is how much I'll pay per, and if you decide you don't want to accept that, you have two options. You can either stop having a medical program, which is not going to happen, or two, you can charge whatever the hell you want, but we're not sending any of the people that are going to be working in the medical field to your school. So basically, you're just destroying your medical program. Because believe me, there will be colleges that will say, hey, absolutely, we're on top of that. We will take that. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And then the people that are teaching the med programs will leave the schools that don't cooperate, because they won't have a med program anymore, and they will migrate to the schools that will cooperate with the pricing plan, and it'll all work perfectly well. So you'll have an influx of doctors, of people that are able to do those jobs that will be needed for the influx of patients. But out of that giant influx of patients that you're expecting, you're not going to have as many as you think, because a lot of the things that people made appointments for, you've now made available over the counter, okay, for the prescriptions. So if they have bronchitis, they don't have to come to your office to get the prescription. They can go to the pharmacy and get the prescription, just like they were buying, Robitussin or something. So they're not going to be coming into the office. Okay, doctors' offices now are doing a thing with physician assistants, where they have them see you, and then doctors see some of the patients, and the assistants see some of the patients, and it all works out nice. I propose a web-based plan as well for minor things. So if you're the guy that has, the flu, and ordinarily you wouldn't go to the doctor for the flu, but your job demands a doctor's note in order for you to return to work and not get an occurrence or a write-up or whatever, there will be a web-based program to where you can simply log on and describe your symptoms. You have the flu or whatever, and they can write you your work note, and you can print it right off your computer, and if you need something simple like that, if you need something that actually is a prescription, like say you suffer from migraine headaches, and they give you Imitrex, and they give you hydrocodone for your headaches. Okay, so you got pain medication and you have a preventative medication. Now, you would have to go to the doctor to get that rewritten, those prescriptions rewritten every month or two. But if you do it as a web-based program, if you're somebody that has an ongoing condition like that, you can simply log into the thing, and there can be a questionnaire that you fill out, a digital questionnaire that says, are you experiencing any new symptoms? Has your symptoms gotten worse? Blah, blah, blah. Unless something new is happening, then you just fill out the thing with all the answers, and then boom, your standard prescription that you always get gets sent to the pharmacy, and you're done. You don't have to go to the doctor's office. Okay, so that'll keep those people out of the doctor's office, which is a big chunk as well of people that have ongoing medical conditions that they have the same medications constantly for. If you're a diabetic, you fall in that category. You can, if you're diabetic, you can have questions on the website that say, what are your numbers? How's your sugar been? Is your insulin working? All that kind of stuff. If everything's cool with what you're doing, if you're fine, and your sugar's good and your insulin's working great and everything's normal and all you need is your prescription rewritten, that's an easy fix. Boom, it's sent, done. You don't have to take up a spot on the schedule. Okay, by doing that, we eliminate a lot of the people that would need to go into the doctor's office. So I think that you'll make up for a lot of that influx of patients. Plus you'll have more doctors, so that will be solved. Okay, so accessibility solved. Affordability, we've already spoken about the prescription cost. Okay, how to fix that by telling the the pharmaceutical companies that they can't charge more than X amount per pill or per prescription, and then you give them a longer period of time that they have exclusive rights to it. Solved. That section of it solved. We've talked about the reform to the laws for frivolous lawsuits. That section of it is solved for affordability. We've talked about paying for the doctors' schooling and having them be federal employees and make a lot less. Solved. Okay? And believe me, when I say make a lot less, they're going to have a great life. Doctors in the military make decent money. They make good money. They're still going to have a nice house, nice car. They're still going to do very well for themselves. But it's just going to be a cap on it. It's going to be a little bit less than what they're charging. So it'll work out. And over the entire spectrum, it's going to save a hell of a lot of money. And it's going to be a much better system. So that part's solved. Okay? So you have accessibility solved, affordability solved. Now, quality of care. In order to have good quality of care, you need to be seen in a timely manner. Okay, so that boils down into the accessibility again. You have to have skilled people. And if the government is paying for your training, then there's going to be a set of standards, you know what I mean? And then you're going to a med school, you're going to have good care. Okay? So the quality of care is going to be good. And if you do it the right way, like we're talking about here, it's not going to be like it is in Canada or England or other countries that have universal health care, because you're not going to have to wait 6 months for a surgery because you're going to have a lot of surgeons. That's the problem in those countries, is there's so many people that are trying to get the care, but they have the same amount of doctors. You know what I mean? We're increasing the amount of doctors here through the programs we've talked about, so I think that'll balance that out some. And so the waits won't be as long. So that's a definite issue when you're talking quality of care, is you're going to want to make sure that you can have the services you need when you need them. We're seeing that problem a lot with the VA now, to where people are waiting a year or more just for basic appointments. You know what I mean? And they have major problems going on, and they're not getting the help. And so that's a definite problem, and we can fix it though. It can be done, and I think we've discussed a lot of ways that it can be done, and be done very well. Some other issues with quality of care is the proper medications that you need. We've handled that through the prescription program we talked about. So that'll be good, because a lot of times what happens now is, like, say I go to the hospital, okay, I don't have insurance, Okay, I pay for all my own health care. I don't have any kind of insurance. I don't want any kind of insurance. So I go to the hospital because I'm very ill. Because I don't go to a doctor or a hospital unless I'm very ill. But if I'm very ill and I go, and they say, "Oh man, you've got pleurisy." Okay, now pleurisy is a infection of the lining of the lung. Very, very painful thing. It starts out as pneumonia, and it progresses past that for people that are stubborn and don't want to go to the doctor and get it fixed. It turns into pleurisy, and it's extremely painful. You can't sit correctly. You can't lay down. There's only certain positions you can be comfortable in. It hurts every time you breathe. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Okay, so let's say that happens again. I'm in the hospital now for pleurisy. So I need medication. They say, we can give you Augmentin to fix your pleurisy. Okay, it'll kill the infection and it'll die down and you'll feel a lot better. So they write the prescription. Now I take the prescription and I go to the pharmacy. Okay, and then I say I need to fill this for my pleurisy. And they say okay. And you say, how much is that going to be? And they say $300. And you say, holy crap, $300? I'm not paying $300 for a prescription. You're crazy. Now, there are other prescriptions that'll work. You can take amoxicillin, you can take penicillin. They will also help, but they are nowhere near as powerful as Augmentin is. But if you're somebody that doesn't have insurance, or you have crappy insurance, then you're going to choose the penicillin or the amoxicillin because they will do the same job as the Augmentin. They just won't do it anywhere near as fast or as well. Okay, but you will still get relief, but you might have to take multiple prescriptions of it instead of just having the one prescription of Augmentin. But you're going to make that choice because like at Walmart, you can get penicillin or amoxicillin for $4 or $6. Okay, so that's a big difference between $4 to $6 for the penicillin and the amoxicillin and the $300 for the Augmentin. So you're going to take the cheaper option because you're paying for it. And you don't have the money to pay for the $300 prescription. Now, that is a quality of care issue. And it's also an affordability issue. But it affects the quality of your care because you're not getting the drugs that you need because you can't afford them. Okay? We can fix that by what I was talking about before, by saying that prescriptions can only cost X amount, no matter what they are. Okay, and then you solve the pharmaceutical companies' problems with R&D by extending the amount of time they have exclusive rights. So that's solved. Some other quality of care issues are a lot of times now insurance companies, that's who we have to deal with constantly whenever we have any kind of issues. Insurance companies won't pay for certain things. If you need certain shoes or certain inserts for your shoes because you have some kind of problem with your feet, okay? And so you need a special kind of insert that the doctor wants you to have. Then a lot of times the insurance company will say, no, we're not going to pay for that because you can just buy Dr. Scholl's or something and it'll do the same thing. Well, yes, it'll provide a little bit of relief, but it won't give you the same as what the doctor prescribed. Okay, so that's a quality of care issue that needs to be fixed. Well, you're not going to have to deal with insurance companies anymore because they will not be in the picture. So if your doctor recommends something, then you can get that. It'll be paid for. Okay, and the government can accomplish that because the government can buy these things in bulk in a size that no other entity can compete with. I mean, the buying power of the federal government, they can purchase supplies in huge amounts, and that takes the individual cost of each unit way down. Okay, so that makes it much more affordable, so it can be done to where you can get what you actually need. So that's a great thing. Another problem you have with insurance companies constantly is if you get a prescription, you go to the doctor, you're ill, The doctor says, oh, I know exactly what's wrong with you. It's blah, blah, blah. And to fix blah, 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 you need prescription X. So they write the prescription for prescription X, and you take the prescription X to your pharmacy, and you're really happy because you think, hey, I'm actually going to feel better soon. So you take it and you try to fill it, and they tell you after you wait a half hour or whatever, oh, I'm sorry, we can't fill this for you because the insurance won't pay for it. You can pay for it yourself if you like, but it's going to be $2,000. Or, you can get your doctor to do what's called a prior auth, and then we can run it back to the insurance. Now, what a prior auth is your insurance company wants your doctor or your doctor's office. Okay, it doesn't always have to be a doctor. It can be a nurse or somebody at the office. Usually the receptionist, the front desk person, is the one that does it. Okay, but your doctor's office calls the insurance company and says, hey, we wrote prescription X for James. We need him to take prescription X, so you need to approve it. And then the insurance company goes, okay, we just wanted to make sure that you were authorizing it. And it's like, well, I just came from the doctor. The doctor just wrote that damn prescription half an hour ago. I brought it to the pharmacy, and they started filling it half an hour ago. So why do you think that all of a sudden the doctor is going to change his mind and say, oh yeah, I didn't mean to write that for James. I meant to write prescription Y. That's a lot cheaper, so let's do that. I mean, it's insane. But those are the kind of hoops that the insurance companies make you jump through. And it's definitely a quality of care issue because you have to suffer in the meantime. Sometimes these things don't get worked out as easily as that, because what happens is the pharmacy will fax the prior auth to your doctor's office, and most times your doctor's office doesn't get to it that day, so it might be 2, 3, 4 days before they finally get it filled out and faxed back over to the insurance company so that they'll actually pay for the damn thing. So you might be 2, 3, 4 days out from the time you went to the doctor and thought you were getting relief to when that prescription can actually be filled. So we're talking suffering that you don't have to suffer through. And it's all because of money. It's all because the insurance company is trying to get away with not paying for that. You know what I mean? And it's wrong, because you pay the insurance company a monthly premium. Unless you have Medicare or Medicaid, and then the government pays, for it. But it's just ridiculous how that works. So that's a definite quality of care issue, So I think through this plan, we can solve the accessibility problem, we can solve the affordability problem, and we can solve the quality of care problem. And every single person in this country can be covered. And we can do it for less money than we're spending now. Because we spend an incredible amount of money on Medicare and Medicaid, okay? And we don't have to spend that money. If you do this plan, then all the money you spend on Medicare and all of the money that you spend on Medicaid and all of the money that we spend on uninsured people that are going to the emergency room, that those costs have to be covered, all of that money now doesn't get spent on that. So all that money is freed up. So the hundreds of billions of dollars that we spend a year just on that can be put towards this plan. Okay? So then you are eliminating a huge chunk of money and reallocating it to the plan. Now, to make up any differences that there might be, okay, because you're going to get close to the amount of money needed to actually do this correctly, so everybody's covered, just by eliminating those programs and reallocating that money that you're already spending in healthcare over to the plan to actually cover everybody and do it right. Now, to make up any kind of deficit that there might be there, what we can do is we can put a national sales tax on all goods, okay? And it doesn't have to be a big amount of money, okay? We're not talking 25, 50%, nothing like that. You can do a national sales tax of a low amount of money, like a 1%, 2%, maybe even up to a 5% national sales tax. And that will cover the entire thing. Okay? That will be not only enough money to pay for the entire medical program that I'm talking about, but you'll have a surplus of money from that, okay, that can go towards other things such as, and I'm not talking other things in the government, I'm talking other things related to your health, like your mental health and your dental, okay? Those two things can also be covered under this plan if you institute the national sales tax of let's say 5%. Okay, because that's going to bring in a ton of money. And the great thing about a national sales tax is people that do not pay other taxes pay this. This is a consumption tax. Okay, so everybody pays it. There's no way to get away from it. You can't not pay it. If you're a criminal that doesn't pay taxes, you still pay the national sales tax. Okay, if you're an illegal who doesn't pay taxes, you still pay the national sales tax. So it's a great way to do that. You can also, marijuana is being legalized in a lot of different places. Okay, you can put a tax on marijuana. You can legalize it nationwide, and you can put a tax on it. You know, such as we do with alcohol and tobacco now. You can put a tax on that. That money can go towards the health care plan. Okay, if you do that, you won't even need the national sales tax. But a lot of people don't want to legalize marijuana. I did a show on that. I think it might have even been last week I did that show. Some people are for it, some people are against it, but that would be a great idea, you know, because that would raise a tremendous amount of money. So basically, what the bottom line here is you could do this and make it cost neutral. Okay, you could make it so we're not spending any more money than we're spending now, or we're spending a little bit less than we're spending now, or we're spending just a little bit more than we're spending now. But the end result would be that everybody in this country is covered. And you would have much better prescription, you would have much better supply of doctors and nurses and specialists. Everything would be better under this plan than what we have now. Okay, now I said in the beginning this wasn't going to be a political thing, like a political solution. We were not going to look at this as Republicans or Democrats. That's important because when you're trying to solve a problem, you don't need to run your problem through an ideology first. Okay, what you need to do is throw all that crap out of the way, and you need to say, here's the problem. What are the possible solutions to this problem? Okay, here's the problem. I can do this, 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 and this. All those things would solve this problem. Now, what are the downfalls of each one of those things? And that's just how you go about solving problems, you know, and you figure it out and you pick the best solution. If you run it through an ideology first, then you've already eliminated a bunch of the options before you even get to figure out if they'll work or not, you know. And there's too much of that crap going on in our country now. Every single thing is politicized, and it shouldn't be. You know, we need to start working together again as Americans and fixing some of the problems we have in this nation, because there's a lot of things in this country that are screwed up, that don't work right, that need fixing. And if we're busy arguing with each other constantly, nonstop about crap, we're never going to fix anything. We have the ability, we have the intelligence, and we have the ingenuity to fix any problem that we have. Okay? Nothing in this country is unfixable. Nothing. There's no problem too big. There's absolutely no problem that we have as a nation that we cannot fix if we cut the crap out and stop fighting and we come together and we fix the damn things. Okay? Stop looking at everything through Republican or Democrat. Stop looking at everything through black or white. Stop looking at everything through man or woman. Screw all that, man. Throw it away. It doesn't matter. Because what matters is solving the problems. And when you're talking solving the problems, you're talking logic, you're talking facts. It has nothing to do with any of that other garbage. Okay? We need to just put the smartest people in a room, and we need to say, here's the problem, figure it out. Okay? That's the way it used to work back when I was growing up in Mensa. I mean, we would have a problem, and they would say, here's the problem, we need solutions, go. And then you would just brainstorm, and you'd come up with ideas for how you would solve that problem. And then you would troubleshoot your ideas and see if they would hold water, if they would stand up. And if they stood up and they held water, and you couldn't find anything that would actually make it implode and just completely not work, then you pass that up the chain. You say, hey, I got a solution, here you go. And then people higher than you looked at it and said, okay, this is a good idea, but you missed this little part. This is the problem with it, but that can be solved this way. And it just keeps on going. You keep having smart people work on it, and it eventually, boom, solved. You know? And I think that this plan that I've come up with for healthcare is a very good beginning. You know, it's going to need to be tweaked. There's little things that are going to need to be tweaked on it to make it actually work properly. But as far as a basic idea of a direction we need to go and solutions to the problems that are contained in healthcare, I think it's brilliant. You know, it'll work. So I urge and I welcome any government officials, whether you're local, state, federal, okay? If you hear this show or you see the replay on YouTube, you're welcome to the ideas. 100% free of charge. I don't care. I don't want to make any money off it. Take them, okay? Take the ideas, figure out how to make them work, put them into action, and let's fix the damn problem already. You know, I'm a horror author. I write scary books for a living, okay? I like hanging out in my mountain and hunting and fishing and wearing camouflage. I'm just a mountain man, okay? And I figured this out. How hard is this, guys? There's not very many problems in this country that can't be figured out. It's simple. You know, you just have to take the time and do it and stop fighting with each other. Okay? I know that there are people that are way smarter than me that can do wonderful things for this country if they would. You know, and they can take this plan that I've come up with and they can tweak this thing and they can make it work wonderfully. Okay? So anybody from the local mayors, you know, of townships and towns, all the way up to Donald Trump himself, any of you are welcome to these ideas. Okay? Take them, run with them. Please, for God's sakes, help the American people. Let's cover everybody. Let's stop making people choose between eating or paying their rent and taking their medicine. Okay? Because it's not right. And there's no damn reason to do it. Okay? So please, take it. Anybody that's listening to this show, or if you listen to this show on the replay, or if you happen to watch this show on the YouTube channel, okay? Share this show. If you're listening to it live, or if you are listening to the replay, please go to my YouTube channel. It's James Hershey Jr. That's all you have to type into the search, and you'll pull up my channel, okay? It's a picture of my ugly mug. I got my blue flannel on. That's my channel. You will find this show, a YouTube video of this show, okay? Share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. Share this show, because, and I people that listen to this show and listen to my other radio shows, you know I don't ask you guys to share these shows, okay? It's something I normally do not do. But this particular show, I think it has some very important information in it, and I think it has some solutions in it. So if we can get this thing to spread around and more people hear it and they share it, then we can create the old, you know, pebble in a pond, ripple reaching the other side of the pond kind of deal, and we can get some of the movers and shakers that actually make the decisions to listen, and maybe they'll take some of these ideas and they'll fix things, you know. That's my sincere hope and my wish. So if you're listening to this live or listening on the replay, please go tomorrow or the next day to my YouTube channel and find this show and share it on your social media. Share it with your friends, and please tell everybody else to share it. If you're watching this show on YouTube right now, please share it on your social media so that we can get this into as many hands and as many eyes and ears as we can, and hopefully somebody that has the power to actually implement some of these things can do it. If you're somebody, by the grace of God, if you know Trump or you know some of Trump's people, please share this show with them. I'm not looking for credit. I'm not looking for money. I'm not looking for, oh, look how great James is. I sincerely want this problem to be solved, and I think that some of these ideas could go a long way to helping. So I'm offering these up to the world. Please share this show. Get it into people's hands that need to see it so that they can fix the problem, okay? We're almost out of time for this show. I want to thank you guys all for joining me, and hopefully we can make a difference with this show. Usually I do like paranormal stuff and mystery stuff and forgotten history stuff on this show, and I love that stuff. It's fun. But every once in a while I'm going to do shows like this to where hopefully we can really make a difference for somebody. And so really cool. Tomorrow night on the channel here, we're going to have the Revolution Broadcast Network presents the Revolution Talk Radio Show. The Revolution Talk Radio Show is back. We've been off for the holidays, for Christmas and everything. I don't know why we say the holidays. I guess because you have Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all that, so I guess that makes sense. But we're going to be back, and so tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, we will be going live, all the guys, and that's going to be awesome. Saturday, we won't have We're Screwed. It won't be until after the first of the year, so it'll be next Saturday, not this Saturday. We may do a show Saturday. We may not do a show Saturday, like just as a fill-in show. I don't know yet. But after the first of the year, everybody will be back, because a lot of our people are off right now for Christmas and New Year's, and they will be back at the first of the year. I've been straight doing shows all the way through because I don't have a lot of the same responsibilities that a lot of the other hosts have, because I'm a horror author. That's what I do for a living. So I don't have a 9-to-5 job I have to go to. I don't have to, worry about all that. I don't have a bunch of kids running around that I have to worry about shopping for and doing Christmas for. It's just me and my old lady, and it's no worries, man. So, I've been going straight through, so you guys still have a show to listen to. So once again, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for all the support, and please, once again, share this show with everybody you know. Tell them to share the show. Let's spread the word, and let's try to get this thing actually fixed, okay? I love you guys with all my heart, and I really, really, really mean that. And until next time, stay positive and love your life.